Hello there and welcome to another EDH Geeks video. Now guys, do not fret too much if you cannot see me today in this video, but in case you didn't know, by clicking the title description or seeing the image, we are doing a $50 budget deck tech on Orah Skyclave Hierophant. So let's jump right into it today. So Orah, our Orzhov commander, is quite an interesting deck. This is the deck that I actually pulled for my restrictions for the under $50 budget, which is why I decided to do this deck tech. Orah is 2 generic and a white and a black for a 3/3 with lifelink. He has, whenever he or another cleric we control dies, we return a cleric that has lesser converted mana cost from our graveyard to the battlefield. So there's a few things that we're trying to do with Orah. Now, I did have the sort of caveat to use as many as possible cards from the new Zendikar set, and there are quite a few new good ones as well from the new set that do help us out quite a bit. But we'll be getting into some more of that strategy down the road. But the first thing that I want to talk about in this deck is one of the most important things, and these aren't the pieces of things that will win us the game more or less, but these are the things that let us play the things that will win us the game, and that is our ramp and mana rocks. So we've got a plethora of mana rocks. We've also got a couple of other ways to generate mana or get sort of a mana advantage, but these are our main ways. We've got Orzhov Signet, which is a 2 mana rock. We tap 1 mana and we produce a black and a white. We have Talisman of Hierarchy or Heresy. My terrible pronunciation skills are at work yet again, of course. It is another 2 mana rock, taps for colorless, and we can pay. Well, it deals 1 damage to us basically, and we can produce a white or a black. Prismatic Lens is a 2 mana rock as well, taps for colorless. The other part, paying 1 to tap for a mana of any color. If we're super in trouble and we absolutely need 1 more color of a certain mana, maybe we'll use this, but mainly this is here for just another 2 mana rock. Mindstone, 2 mana rock, again, taps for colorless. 1 mana, sack the Mindstone to draw a card. That's not terrible either. I wish it was a free sack, but we can't get that too easily, I would say. And, late game, just fine to crack this and draw another card to keep us getting deeper into our deck. Ever-Flowing Chalice, 0 mana rock. It has multi-kicker for 2. So it enters the battlefield with a charge counter for each time it was kicked. And then it taps to add a colorless mana for each charge counter put onto it, or that's on it. Anyway, so when we pay 2 mana for this, it comes in with a charge counter and it basically taps for 1 mana. We will mostly often tap 2 for this. I've seen people pay 4 mana and then have this come in with 2 charge counters and then use it for 2 mana. You can do that. You can do this for 6. You can do it for any number of mana if you have that much mana. I don't find it's that efficient or that good, but you certainly can do it. Now, a couple of these, some people might scratch their heads at and kind of look at them a bit weird, but because they're not actually producing mana in any way realistically by themselves. But these are more or less our ways to get extra lands, which is Thematic Compass and Treasure Map. The Compass is 2 mana, We can pay 3 mana, search our library for a basic land card, put it into our hand. At the beginning of the end step, if we control 7 or more lands, it flips over into a land which is basically Maze of Ith, but it also taps for a mana. And Maze of Ith, basically for those who don't know, it taps to untap a attacking or blocking creature an opponent controls. Treasure map, 2 mana. We pay 1 mana, scry 1. We put a counter on the map, and then if there are 3 or more counters on this, we flip it. And we make 3 treasures. And on the other side, it taps for a colorless mana, and it also can tap and sacrifice a treasure to draw a card. Wayfarer's Bauble, 1 mana to play it, 2 mana, sack it, go get a basic land, put it into the battlefield under our control. Burnished Heart, 3 mana, and then another 3 mana to sacrifice it, go search for 2 basic lands, put them into our battlefield tapped. Command Sphere, at this point where we're talking about Burnished Heart and Command Sphere, I was kind of running out of options a little bit. Command Sphere was a little bit, in my opinion, above Worn Power Stone. Not so much for fixing as much as what some may think, because I don't think fixing is that big of a thing too much, but it is a little bit of a thing, and it is good that this taps for colored mana rather than just tapping for mana that we cannot, use for, at a certain point we actually do need our colors. So that's basically what I'm trying to say there. But just another utility of this card, which I think puts it a little bit over that for what we wanted, was just to sacrifice it to draw a card. And there's other reasons that we sometimes want our artifacts or enchantments in the graveyard, which we will come to shortly. But let's move on to some of our removal here now. So we don't have that many instants of sorceries that directly remove anything. We mostly have creatures that remove stuff. And this is all our one-to-one removal, which we only have a little bit of, but we don't really need that much. We have Demon's Disciple, which is a new Zendikar Rising card, 3 mana, 2 and a black. He enters the battlefield. Each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. We'll obviously just sacrifice this guy, and then if our commander happens to be on the battlefield at this time, well, we'll just basically scrap Trawler for another cleric, because he is in fact a cleric. That helps us out with our game plan. Fiend Hunter, he enters, you may exile another target creature. When he leaves, you return that creature to the battlefield. So this works really weirdly with our commander. If we sack it while the triggers are on the stack somehow, we've got some ways to sack creatures, which we'll be coming to later on. At the same time that he's entering, basically it just exiles that thing permanently, because of how the 2 text boxes of these abilities are apart from one another rather than together. Leonin Relic Water, basically the same idea, but he exiles target artifact or enchantment. Then we actually have one instant, which is Generous Gift. Just destroy any target permanent its controller creates a 3/3 elephant creature token. So this, mostly for decks, you want things that synergize with what you're doing, but you also need to be working as much as possible as you can at instant speed. And once some of these creatures are in the graveyard, we do have ways to get them back at instant speed. So that means that we can play them as if they were instant after the fact that they're in the graveyard, by getting them back in other ways. But Generous Gift, very good. We need that instant speed removal if we need to stop somebody from winning the game or stop somebody from trying to charge in to us with something that will either essentially make us lose or make them win. But these are our removal pieces. We'll move on though now to another subject, and that would be card draw. Now we've got a few other pieces that are not shown here under card draw as well, but these are our main specific ways to really draw cards that don't really do much else, I would say. Relic Vial, new artifact from Zendikar. You sacrifice a creature, draw a card. Works well with our commander as well, because we'll get that scrap trawler effect. We'll get another creature that's CMC less than that creature back from the graveyard. As long as the creature that died, as long as we actually control a cleric rather, whenever a creature we control dies, each opponent loses a life and we gain life. That's very good for us because we want to be sacking our creatures, pinging our opponents, slowly draining them so that we can eventually kill them. We're not really interested so much in trying to drain them out in a massive combo in this deck, though you can go down that route. That's not the route that I was trying to go down, because I just don't feel like it does that much. It helps you out, but I think you need to rely on attacking and doing this as well. You can't just rely on one thing or another. I think you've got to rely on a bit of each. If you've got the opportunity to attack, I think you should. Next is Tabarix, Hope's Demise, 2 and a black, 2/2 flying demon cleric. When Hope's Demise has 5 counters on it, he has lifelink. Whenever another non-token creature we control dies, we put a +1/+1 counter on him. And if that creature was a cleric, you may draw a card. We draw a card, and we will gain 1 life. So he just draws us cards for killing off our other clerics, which are mostly mediocre clerics that kind of do something when they enter the battlefield or when they die, or we get some other benefit out of them, going to the graveyard, making tokens, doing other stuff and whatnot. Village Rites, 1 mana instant. We sacrifice a creature in addition to this spell's costs, and then we draw 2 cards. We're not really up cards when we're doing something like this, but it's a very efficient effect, and if we have other card draw effects out, this becomes much better as well. Dark Prophecy, 3 black mana. Whenever a creature we control dies, we draw a card, we lose 1 life. Culling Dialis, 2 mana artifact. We sacrifice a creature, we put a charge counter on the Dialis, and then we pay 1 mana, sacrifice the Dialis, draw a card for each charge counter on the Dialis. Pretty good to continually draw cards. Anything that continually draws us cards, like that we can just keep doing over and over and over, is good. Continuing to scrap trawler things back from our graveyard is good. Costly Plunders are alright as well as additional cost to cast this. We sacrifice a creature or an artifact, we draw 2 cards. So again, that's still pretty good. We want to be getting through our deck, and we want some of our stuff to be in the graveyard anyway, so we can reanimate it later and do other things. But we'll move on now to the next piece, which is what I'm calling utility. Now, a lot of cards kind of didn't really find a place in this deck tech, but I wanted to put some of the cards that are the most important cards to what our deck's trying to sort of do here. So we can go through some of them. Priest of Forgotten Gods, 2 mana, 1 and a black. We tap it, sacrifice 2 other creatures, and then each of our opponents basically will take 2 life, and have to sacrifice a creature, we'll add 2 mana and we'll draw a card. So this just does a lot of stuff for us. It sacrifices our stuff, it pings our opponents, it draws us cards, it gains us mana, it draws us cards. It's really, really good for 2 mana, and it's a very good budget card. Priest of Gex, when he comes into play, we add 3 mana. So basically he's for free, and there's certain combos that you certainly can do with him. I'm not trying to do those with him, I'm just trying to get some additional value with him. There's certainly some loops that we might get into that involve him sacrificing him to do other things and getting our mana back and doing weird shenanigans. Skursdag High Priest, 2 mana, a 1 in the black. He has Morbid, so whenever a creature has died, we can tap him and tap 2 untapped creatures we control to get a 5/5 demon creature token with flying. So that's pretty good, just turning our more useless clerics that are random 1/1s and whatnot, that don't have much evasion or don't do very much on their own, sort of into actual threats. Entomber Ichak, 2 mana and 2 black. When he enters the battlefield, we choose 1, return target creature card from our graveyard to our hand, or target opponent reveals their hand and we choose a non-creature card from it, and that player discards that card. Both these modes are okay. We're mostly going to choose the returning creature mode because we're going to have a lot of creatures in our graveyard. Now, just clarification, all these creatures are clerics. Skursdag High Priest is a cleric, Entomber Exarch is a cleric randomly as well. Priest of Gex is also a cleric, though it says summon minion here. His text is errated and he says he is a cleric, so that's very weird. Yes, and all these other creatures are also clerics, but every creature that's in our deck is a cleric. And that's also why we don't have some other cards that are sort of in here, because of the fact that we really want to be cleric tribal as much as possible, even though that might hurt us in some other areas. Whisper Blood Liturgist, 3 and a black. We tap him, we sacrifice 2 creatures, we turn another creature from our graveyard to the battlefield. So we'll sacrifice 2 things, we'll get 2 things back because we'll scrap Trawler twice essentially, then we'll get something else back with his ability. Doom Necromancer, we sacrifice him, we to return a target creature from our graveyard to the battlefield. So this helps us get bigger things out. So eventually we can get into these loops where we'll sacrifice our big thing to get back the Doom Necromancer, sacrifice the Doom Necromancer to get back the big thing, and so on and so on and so on. So we're trying to do this to create tokens like zombies or demons or Eldrazi or other things like that, or just ping our opponents and do things like that. So those are like the things that we're trying to do. We're trying to amass an army of various different creatures that we can eventually use to kill off our opponents. Pious Evangel, human cleric, 2 and a white. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under our control, we gain life. We pay 2 mana, tap him, sacrifice a creature to transform him. And on the other side, he is this weird creature that basically pings our opponents. So whenever he or another creature we control dies, target opponent loses a life and we gain a life. So more draining effects that help us out as well. Pitiless Pontiff, we can sacrifice another creature, make Pitiless Pontiff gain indestructible and death touch until end of turn. Now there's one creature I think I missed to put on here, which basically helps us out making Eldrazi. and that is Extractor of Sin. Whenever Extractor of Sin enters the battlefield, we sacrifice another permanent. If we do, we create a 3/2 Eldrazi creature. At the beginning of our upkeep, if there are 4 more card types among cards in our graveyard, we transform him, and then he gives our Eldrazi Vigilance randomly, and we can pay 2 mana, sacrifice a non-Eldrazi creature to put a 3/2 Eldrazi creature horror token onto the battlefield. So he does a lot of good stuff for what our deck wants, making better threats, basically, because most of our stuff is either random 1/1s or random 2/2s that don't do anything except die well, or or most of the other cards that are in our deck, rather, don't really do anything. They just sort of either are a 1/1 that makes some 1/1s, or a random 1/1 that might make us a 5/5 demon or an angel or a 4/4 angel or what have you, when they die or when they enter and things like that. The most of our deck is most of these worse cards that sort of don't do very much on their own, really, until we can get them in loops and continually sacrifice them or continue to do things with them that will net us more of a gain, because like a 5/5 1/5/5 is not going to win us the game. We need many creatures, because there's going to be board wipes happening, and there's going to be people trying to target our stuff and kill off of our stuff. So we certainly need more than one sort of standalone set of threats. We need to be able to rebuy a lot of our stuff so that we can continue on this value train. So those are most of the cards that I wanted to go over and talk about with what's in this deck. Full deck list will be in the description. And again, it is a $50 budget-friendly deck. And in closing, I want to sort of just talk about specifically what's happening with the Commander deck building challenge that had going on for a little while. Unfortunately, it seems like it's not going to happen at this point. I finished my deck, and basically no one else has. I think the restrictions were maybe a little bit too hard for some people. The time frame was maybe a little bit too hard for some people. This also was the time, and at the time when I was trying to get people to do this, I was actually quite sick on the day that I came in to try to recruit people, more or less, and I couldn't really talk at all. So it was very hard to sort of tell people what was going on, and it's been very difficult trying to organize people. So it's one of those things that I continually say and do, where I go, oh, I won't rely on anyone else, and then I go, oh, well, what if we go and do something else, and people go, oh, that sounds cool, let's do it, and then I go, cool, let's do it, and then it sort of just doesn't happen because, someone gets too busy, and that's fine. Look, everyone's got their own lives, and it's not up to me to tell you what to do with your life. But it is one of those things that I would like to revisit to a degree, but I think just doing this is enough for me right now. I hope people enjoy this content. At any rate, please help me out as if you can. I don't ask very much, just to help us out, get us some likes, get us some shares, get us some views, get us some subscribers. If you can, if you feel like this is benefiting you, if you like this sort of stuff, you want to see more stuff, you want to suggest stuff, get on our Patreon, donate to us. You can suggest things to us on our Patreon. You can do all sorts of things on our Patreon. I'm putting more and more things on there so that people will get more and more value out of using the Patreon. So guys, just help us out if you can, and hope you have enjoyed this video. Hope to see you again in another video, along with